What if one book could completely change the way you think about success, discipline, money, and life? I mean, what if it could explain exactly why you say yes when you desperately want to say no?
It's a pretty wild thought, right?
It really is. In today's audiobook summary, you're about to discover some of those powerful lessons ever written about human psychology.
We are getting into the real mechanics of influence today.
Exactly. Welcome back to Read Less. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the hidden triggers that control our behavior. You are going to learn how successful people think differently, how invisible habits shape your future, how to overcome the fear of saying no, and really, how to level up your life step by understanding the psychology of persuasion.
And it starts in a pretty unexpected place.
Yeah, it does. I want you to imagine, just for a second, being a turkey.
An actual literal turkey.
Right, not a metaphor.
Yeah.
You are a mother turkey, and you are fiercely protective. I mean, if anything threatens your chicks, you just become this feathered ball of absolute fury.
Squawking, pecking, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And your ultimate enemy out there in the wild is the polecat. If a polecat even comes near your nest, your brain triggers this immediate violent rage. But animal behaviorists discovered something completely terrifying about how your turkey brain works.
It's a massive vulnerability.
It is. Your entire maternal instinct, this incredibly complex suite of protective behaviors, it isn't triggered by the sight of your babies. It's not their smell or, their touch.
Just one single sound.
Yes. The cheep, cheep noise that young chicks make. That is it. That's the whole trigger.
Which means it can be hacked so easily.
It's a devastating hack. Scientists took a stuffed model of a polecat, the natural enemy, and they pulled it on a string toward the mother turkey.
And obviously she attacked it.
Viciously. But then they put an tiny tape recorder inside the stuffed polecat, and they play that specific cheep, cheep sound.
The inversion of her behavior is it's almost mechanical.
Right. She just stopped attacking.
Yeah.
Instantly. Not only did she accept the stuffed enemy approaching her nest, she actually gathered the polecat underneath her body to warm it.
She embraced a monster.
Solely because it made a specific noise. But the second they turned the tape recorder off, she went right back to tearing it to pieces.
It's a behavioral tape. It's pre-programmed into her neural circuitry. And that cheep, cheep sound is just the play button.
It's wild. And if her own actual chick failed to make that sound, she would ignore it. Or even kill it.
She'd abandon her own young if it was silent.
So, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Have you ever wondered why you walk out of a store with something you completely didn't need? Or, agree to a favor you instantly regret?
Wondering how on earth that even happened.
Exactly. Today, we're giving you the blueprint to your own mind. Because as much as we like to think of ourselves as these hyper-rational, sophisticated creatures,
we have our own play buttons.
We really do. We act just like that maternal turkey. So we're going to explore the 6 psychological weapons of influence, so you can learn how to navigate a world full of people who do nothing but try to pull your strings.
It's genuinely a survival skill at this point.
Definitely. I was reading the source material, and there's this story about an Indian jewelry store in Arizona that perfectly illustrates this.
The turquoise story. I love this one.
It's so good. So the owner had this allotment of turquoise jewelry. Good quality, fairly priced, but it just would not sell.
Peak tourist season, right?
Yeah, the store is packed. But the turquoise is just collecting dust. She moves it to the center display, tells her staff to push it. Nothing works.
People are just ignoring it.
Right. So finally she's leaving on a buying trip, and she scribbles this frustrated note to her head saleswoman. She writes, "Everything in this display case, price times 1/2.
She just wants to take a loss and clear it out.
Exactly. But the employee misread the handwriting. She read the 1/2 as a 2.
Oh, wow.
She literally doubled the price of all the unsold turquoise. And when the owner came back a few days later, every single piece was gone. Sold out.
At twice the original price.
How does that even happen?
Well, think about the mechanics there. Those tourists, they didn't have the time or the gemological expertise to analyze the molecular structure of that turquoise.
Right. They're on vacation.
Exactly. They wanted good jewelry. And in their past experience, price usually increased along with worth. So in a vacuum of deep knowledge, that high price alone became their trigger feature for quality.
Expensive equals good. Click. Whir.
Precisely. They relied on a standard human heuristic, a mental shortcut.
It's kind of like the autopilot system on a commercial jet. Like a pilot could technically fly a 747 manually from New York to London, gripping the yoke the whole way.
But they'd be completely cognitively fried by the time they landed.
Exactly. We need our mental autopilot just to get through the day. But the terrifying part is, having an autopilot leaves the cockpit door unlocked for hijackers.
Biologists actually call these hijackers mimics. The natural world is full of them.
Like the fireflies. Right, the Faucher's firefly.
Yeah, a really brutal example. The female Faucher's fireflies prey on the males of a different genus.
They eat them.
They eat them. And to do it, they mimic the specific blinking light pattern that the females of the victim species use to signal they want a mate.
So the male sees the blink, his mating tape hits play, and he flies straight into the jaws of death.
Or the saber-toothed blenny. It's this tiny fish that exploits the ocean's cooperative ecosystem.
Oh, the cleaner fish dance.
Right. Large predators will let a specific cleaner fish swim right into their mouths to eat parasites. The cleaner fish does this undulating dance, and the predator just freezes and opens its jaws. Automatically. So the saber-toothed blenny evolved to mimic that exact dance. The big fish freezes and the blenny darts in, rips a chunk of flesh right out of the larger fish's face, and swims away.
That is horrifying. But humans have our own mimics, right? The compliance professionals, salespeople, fundraisers, lobbyists.
People who know exactly how to flash the right light or do the right dance.
And sometimes the trigger isn't even a complex dance. Sometimes it's literally just a single word. Which brings us to the Harvard Xerox machine experiment.
Ellen Langer's work. It's foundational.
I couldn't stop thinking about this study. She had people approach a line of students waiting to use a library copy machine.
A very relatable scenario.
Right. So in the first scenario, the plant asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush?"
And 94% of people let them cut in line.
Which totally makes sense. They give a valid reason. Empathy kicks in. In the second scenario, they just asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?"
No reason given.
And compliance dropped to 60%. Again, totally logical. But the third scenario, this breaks reality.
It really does.
The third time, the plant asks, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make some copies?"
Because I have to make some copies, that provides absolutely zero new information.
It's just stating what a copy machine is for. But compliance shot back up to 93%.
Almost identical to giving a real emergency reason.
But why? My brain consciously knows that isn't a real reason. How does that bypass my critical thinking?
Because critical analytical processing requires energy. It happens in the prefrontal cortex. But the word because has been associated throughout your entire life with a subsequent rational justification.
So my brain just hears because and stops listening.
Exactly. It assumes a reason is coming. And to save energy, it just checks the box. A reason was provided. I don't need to analyze it.
It's mental jujitsu. They aren't beating us into submission. They're just using our own neural wiring against us.
And a massive part of that wiring is how we perceive the world relatively rather than absolutely.
The contrast principle.
Yes. We don't judge the value of anything in a vacuum. We judge it based on what immediately preceded it.
Like the psychophysics experiment with the water buckets.
The hot and cold water.
Yeah, you have 3 buckets. Cold, room temperature, and hot. You plunge your left hand in the cold water, your right hand in the hot water.
Leave them there for a minute.
Right. Then you pull them out and plunge both hands into the room temperature bucket at the exact same time.
And the sensory conflict is immediate.
Your left hand is screaming that the water is boiling hot, and your right hand is screaming that it's freezing cold. It is the exact same bucket of lukewarm water.
But your physical perception is completely distorted by the contrast.
Now, overlay that distortion onto retail. You walk into a high-end men's clothing store. You need a suit and a sweater.
Which one should the salesperson show you first to maximize revenue?
See, my initial thought is, start small, ease me into the water, show me the $95 sweater. If you drop a $500 suit on me right away, I'm going to run out of the store.
It seems intuitive, but the data dictates the exact opposite.
Really?
Yes. Retail clothiers are strictly trained to sell the most expensive item first. If a customer has just psychologically committed to spending $495 on a suit,
a $95 sweater suddenly looks like a rounding error.
The sweater becomes the lukewarm water. Once your internal baseline is anchored to the high price, all the accessories just look incredibly cheap by comparison.
Car dealerships do this constantly, don't they?
All the time. They never discuss the upgraded stereo or the tinted windows until after you sign for the $30,000 base price.
What's another couple $100 against 30 grand?
Exactly. They manipulate how you see the offer.
The researcher for the source text actually went undercover at a real estate agency to watch this. He shadowed this agent named Phil.
Phil and his setup properties.
Yes. Phil would start every tour by showing prospective buyers a couple of absolute dumps. Houses falling apart, overpriced.
Properties the firm never intended to sell.
Right. Phil loved watching his clients' eyes light up when he finally took them to the normal house he actually wanted them to buy.
Because if he showed the normal house first, they'd nitpick it.
But after dragging them through 2 overpriced shacks, the normal house looked like the Taj Mahal, and the price felt like a steal.
It's all about perceptual contrast. But, manipulating perception is one thing. Manipulating a target's internal sense of obligation is far more profound.
We're moving from how things look to how things feel in the gut. The crushing weight of owing somebody.
The rule of reciprocation.
Before we get into that, I just want to quickly say, if you enjoy powerful audiobook summaries like this, make sure to subscribe to Read Less. We love diving into this stuff with you.
Really is fascinating.
So reciprocation. The rule is simple, right? We have to try to repay what another person provides us.
If a neighbor brings over a casserole, you return the Tupperware with a baked good inside. Sociologists have found there is no human society on Earth that does not subscribe to this rule.
Because it's what allowed us to survive. Richard Leakey said it's the essence of what makes us human.
It created a web of indebtedness that birthed trade, the division of labor, eventually whole cities.
But we are conditioned to chafe under that saddle of obligation. We hate being labeled a moocher or a freeloader.
It's essentially social death.
And that drive to repay a debt is so overpowering, it can bridge decades and defy all logic. Like the Ethiopia-Mexico relief aid in 1985.
One of the most stunning historical examples.
In 1985, Ethiopia was a hellscape. Brutal famines, civil war, total economic collapse. People were starving by the thousands.
The whole world was mobilizing to send them aid.
But amidst all of this suffering, the Ethiopian Red Cross took $5,000 of their own relief funds and sent it to Mexico City to help victims of an earthquake.
Which seems like a completely irrational allocation of resources.
Until you look at the ledger. 50 years earlier, in 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia, and Mexico had sent aid to the Ethiopians.
Yeah, a century later.
Across an ocean, amidst their own acute suffering, the need to clear that debt triumphed over immediate survival.
It shows the beauty of human connection, but it also exposes a massive vulnerability because the rule enforces uninvited debts.
The Hare Krishnas mastered this in the 70s.
They really did.
They used to solicit donations in airports just by chanting, and they were failing miserably. People didn't like them.
So they restructured their approach to make the liking factor completely irrelevant.
Instead of asking for money, a Krishna would step into the path of a traveler and press a flower into their hand.
The uninvited gift.
The traveler tries to hand it back. I don't want this. But the Krishna refuses. No, it is our gift to you, but a donation would be appreciated.
And you can observe the internal agony of the traveler.
They are physically contouring. They want to keep walking. They hate the flower. They don't like the person. But the societal programming fires alarm bells. You cannot take a gift without giving.
So they fish out $1, shove it at the solicitor, and storm off.
And usually throw the flower in the nearest garbage can. The Krishnas actually harvested the discarded flowers from the trash to use again.
To quantify how powerful this uninvited debt is, we have to look at Professor Dennis Regan's experiment at Cornell.
The Joe and the Coke study.
Yes. He brings subjects into a room to evaluate art alongside an undercover assistant named Joe.
In half the scenarios, Joe leaves during a break and comes back with 2 glass bottles of Coca-Cola. He hands one to the subject. Bought one for you too.
In the other half, Joe comes back empty-handed.
Later, Joe asks for a favor. He's selling raffle tickets for a new car, 25 cents apiece.
The primary finding was predictable. The subjects who got the unsolicited Coke bought twice as many raffle tickets.
But the secondary finding blew my mind. Regan had the subjects fill out a survey indicating how much they actually liked Joe.
Normally, there is a direct correlation between liking someone and complying with their requests.
Right. But for the group that received the Coke, that correlation completely vanished.
Mathematically obliterated. Subjects who explicitly stated they actively disliked Joe bought just as many tickets as those who liked him.
The discomfort of the unpaid debt just overpowered their personal feelings. which means an unsavory salesperson can bypass your defenses just by forcing a small favor into your hands.
And the exchange is wildly unfair. A Coke cost 10 cents back then. Joe was getting a 500% return on investment because people bought an average of 2 tickets.
We'll agree to a larger request just to rid ourselves of the psychological burden.
Which is exactly what Amway did with the bug.
Oh, leaving the basket of free cleaning products at a customer's house for 72 hours.
Completely free. But the moment you spray a single spritz of window cleaner,
the trap snaps shut. You consumed the gift.
When the salesperson returns, the customer feels deeply trapped by reciprocity. They buy products they don't even need.
Recognizing that mechanism can literally be life or death. The text mentions Diane Louis, a survivor of the Jonestown massacre.
A profound example of situational awareness.
When Jim Jones ordered the mass suicide, almost everyone drank the Kool-Aid. But Diane walked out and escaped into the jungle.
And she survived because of a choice she made months earlier.
Right. When she was sick, Jim Jones offered her special food from his personal reserves, and she refused it. She intuitively knew that accepting that gift would create a psychological ledger. She didn't want to owe him anything.
She rejected the favor to maintain her autonomy.
But the most insidious weaponization of reciprocity doesn't even involve a physical gift. It's the rejection then retreat technique.
Operating on the currency of concession.
The Boy Scout trap. The author was walking down the street, and a 12-year-old Boy Scout asks if he wants to buy a $5 ticket to the Boy Scout circus.
The author obviously declines.
No, thank you. Then the Scout says, well, if you don't want tickets, how about buying some of our big chocolate bars? They're only $1 each.
The author buys 2.
Hands over $2, walks away, and realizes he's been played. He doesn't even like chocolate.
Let's deconstruct that illusion of the concession. Reciprocity dictates that if someone makes a concession to us, we are obligated to make one in return.
When the Boy Scout retreated from $5 to $1, it was framed as a retreat. He backed down.
Therefore, the author felt an intense social pressure to back down from his stance of complete noncompliance. He had to move from no to yes.
Okay, but I have to push back here. If I want something, why not just ask for the moon? If I demand a 100% salary increase from my boss and then retreat to 10%, isn't she just going to be angry?
You've identified the critical boundary. Yes, if the initial request is so extreme it's perceived as bad faith, the tactic backfires. The retreat isn't seen as genuine.
It's just seen as clumsy manipulation.
Exactly. A master negotiator pitches an initial demand that gives them room to retreat, but doesn't break the illusion of good faith bargaining.
It combines reciprocity and the contrast principle. A $1 candy bar seems cheap after a $5 pitch. But doesn't this destroy long-term compliance? If I get cornered into a deal, I'm going to resent you. I'll probably cancel the order later.
Logically, that makes sense, but empirically, the exact opposite occurs.
How is that possible?
A UCLA study on bargaining showed that targets manipulated by this technique actually follow through on agreements at a higher rate.
Even though they got fleeced.
Because they experience 2 distinct emotional phenomena. Greater responsibility for the final agreement and greater satisfaction with it.
They feel like they dictated the terms.
They believe they successfully forced the requester to back down. And the satisfaction of winning the negotiation guarantees future compliance.
That is terrifying because it scales up to the absolute highest corridors of power. The text draws a direct line between this Boy Scout trick and the Watergate break-in.
One of the most bafflingly stupid political operations ever conceived.
The people running that room, John Mitchell, Jeb Magruder, they were brilliant, cynical political veterans. And G. Gordon Liddy was widely considered erratic.
The plan required $250,000 in untraceable cash.
And Richard Nixon was crushing McGovern in the polls. He was guaranteed to win. There was absolutely no strategic reason to approve a felony burglary. So how did Liddy get a yes?
Because the $250,000 burglary was not Liddy's initial proposal.
It was a concession. 2 months prior, Liddy pitched a $1 million program. It was insane. A chase plane, mugging squads, a yacht in Miami fully staffed with high-class call girls to blackmail politicians.
Mitchell rejected it out of hand, of course.
A week later, Liddy comes back, scraps the yacht, pitches a $500,000 plan. Still too much. Finally, he comes back with a bare-bones proposal, just $250,000. Just a simple burglary and wiretapping at the Watergate.
Magruder later testified they felt reluctant to send Liddy away with nothing.
After turning down $1 million, $250,000 felt like a little something they could throw him as a concession.
Liddy asked for the whole loaf, knowing he'd be satisfied with a few slices.
And the proof that this was a perceptual trick. There was one man in that final meeting who violently opposed the plan. Frederick Laroux. Why did he see it clearly?
Because he hadn't been present at the first two meetings.
Exactly. His brain wasn't anchored to the $1 million yacht proposal. He judged a $250,000 burglary in a vacuum and recognized it was crazy.
It is chilling how easily our perception is warped, but, the most unyielding pressure often comes from within.
Yes, the hobgoblins of the mind. Commitment and consistency.
We have this overwhelming drive to be and to appear consistent with what we have already done.
Let's go to the racetrack for this one. Researchers found this wild behavioral quirk. Talk to a bettor 30 seconds before they approach the window, and they were tentative, weighing the odds, expressing uncertainty.
But talk to that exact same bettor 30 seconds after they hand over their money.
They are supremely confident, absolutely certain their horse will win. But the variables of the universe haven't changed. The horse isn't faster.
The only thing that shifted is the bettor's final commitment.
Why do we instantly brainwash ourselves like that?
First, consistency is highly prized in our culture. It's linked to rationality and honesty. If you fluctuate constantly, you're viewed as erratic or weak.
So we align our current reality with our past actions so we don't look foolish.
Our brain acts like a defense attorney, generating evidence to justify the stand we just took. It's cognitive dissonance.
We can't handle holding two conflicting ideas like, I just spent $100 and this horse might lose. So we delete the doubt. But it's also about energy conservation.
The autopilot again. To constantly analyze data is exhausting. Once you make a decision, consistency allows you to turn your brain off.
You don't have to sift through the blizzard of information. But it gets darker. Sometimes we use consistency not just to avoid the effort of thinking, but the terror of thinking.
The Transcendental Meditation Recruitment Meeting.
Yes, a masterful demonstration. 2 researchers attended a TM open meeting. The recruiters were promising the moon cure insomnia, cure depression, pass through walls.
The researchers brought along a logic professor.
The ultimate buzzkill. During the Q&A, this professor stands up and in 2 minutes flat, utterly dismantles the presenter's entire framework, points out every logical fallacy.
It's a massacre. The presenters are stunned.
They meekly admit the professor raised interesting points requiring further study. By all rational metrics, the pitch is dead.
You'd expect everyone to head for the exits.
But they didn't. There was a chaotic rush to the back of the room. People were practically throwing their $75 registration fees at the recruiters.
The researchers were baffled until they interviewed the recruits outside.
The recruits understood the professor perfectly. And that is exactly why they rushed to give their money. These were people in pain, severe insomnia, failing marriages.
TM offered a glimmer of hope.
When the voice of reason threatened to scientifically obliterate that hope, panic set in. They needed a fortress against logic immediately.
By handing over their $75, they forced themselves into a physical commitment.
I already paid for it, so it must work. I don't have to listen to the logic guy anymore. They trapped themselves in consistency so they wouldn't have to face their despair.
It is the deep comfort of mindless consistency. And compliance professionals exploit this. If they can get you to take a stand, even a trivial one, they can steer your behavior.
The toy company trap. I have fallen for this as a parent. It is pure evil genius. Toy companies heavily advertise a specific toy starting in October.
The kid begs for it, the parent promises it for Christmas.
But in December, the toy is miraculously sold out everywhere. An intentional manufactured shortage.
So the parent is trapped. They made a commitment.
You can't ruin Christmas. You buy a substitute toy of equal value, which the company conveniently supplied in massive abundance.
And then January hits.
Parents are broke. But the toy companies start running the exact same commercials for the original hero toy again. The kid yells, "You promised."
And the parent trudges back to the store.
Trapped by the jaws of their own past commitment, the toy companies double their sales. It's a psychological bear trap.
Behavioral science shows that the most effective commitments share 3 characteristics. They must be active, public, and require effort.
The foot-in-the-door technique. Look at the Chinese POW camps in the Korean War. They used a psychological assault called the lenient policy to extract collaboration.
They understood a massive ideological leap is impossible. They needed a microscopic initial commitment.
Like asking a prisoner to state, the United States is not perfect.
Objectively true. The soldier agrees. Then they escalate gently. Could you explain how it's not perfect? And then the critical pivot. Write it down.
Why is the physical act of writing so devastating to our defenses?
A written declaration provides physical, irrevocable evidence. You can't delude yourself into believing you didn't do it. Plus, it can be made public.
The Chinese would broadcast these essays over the loudspeakers. Suddenly, the soldier's peers view him as a collaborator.
And we observe our own behavior to determine who we are. The soldier rationalizes, I wrote it, everyone heard it, I must actually believe it.
It shifted their entire identity. Businesses do this today. Amway makes salespeople write down their goals. A company reduced cancellation rates just by having the customer fill out the sales agreement instead of the salesperson.
Even promotional contests. Write in 50 words or less why you love our product.
People write these poetic essays about toothpaste just to win a toaster and end up convincing themselves they actually love the toothpaste. But it gets scarier when a tiny commitment leads to massive compliance.
The Safe Driver Billboard Study.
Psychologists went door to door asking homeowners to display a tiny 3-inch square sign that said, "Be a safe driver." Almost everyone agreed.
2 weeks later, a different volunteer comes back.
And asks them to allow a massive, incredibly ugly billboard reading drive carefully to be installed on their front lawns, completely obstructing their view.
And 76% of people agreed.
Just because they accepted a 3-inch sign 2 weeks earlier. But the truly scary part was the variation study.
They asked a different group to sign a petition to keep California beautiful.
Right. 2 weeks later, they asked those people to put up the massive "Drive Carefully" billboard, and half of them agreed, even though the first commitment was about beautification and the second was about driving safety.
Signing that petition subtly altered their core identity. They began viewing themselves as public-spirited citizens.
And they naturally complied with entirely different requests because it aligned with their new identity. It's literally hacking who you think you are.
Which brings us to the third element of powerful commitments, effort. The more pain or trouble that goes into a commitment, the greater its ability to dictate our future attitudes.
Which explains hazing. Why do college fraternities or African tribes like the Fanga engage in brutal initiation rituals?
The pain is the glee that ensures the group's survival.
Aronson and Mills proved this with the sex discussion group experiment, right?
Yes. Women underwent an initiation to join this group. Some went through severe embarrassment, reading explicit material aloud. Others had a mild initiation or none at all.
And the actual discussion group was agonizingly dull. Just a droning audio recording about the sex behavior of lower animals.
Yet the women who endured the severe embarrassment convinced themselves the group was fascinating and highly valuable.
If you suffer for something, your brain is forced to justify the suffering. I just froze for a week to join this fraternity. Therefore, it must be the most amazing organization on earth.
But there is a crucial caveat, the secret weapon of the compliance professional. All the effort and public declarations won't change your self-image if you feel coerced.
You must take inner responsibility for the choice.
If you offer a large reward or threaten a massive punishment, the subject attributes their behavior to external pressure.
I only wrote the essay to get a warm coat. They have an excuse. The exploiters want you to believe you chose it.
Jonathan Friedman's robot toy study with children illustrates this perfectly.
He took boys into a room with a cool robot toy. For the first group, he used a severe threat. If you play with it, I'll be very angry.
For the second group, he gave a mild instruction. It is wrong to play with the robot. No threat whatsoever.
None of the boys touched the robot while he was watching. But 6 weeks later, a different researcher takes the kids back and says they can play with any toy.
Of the boys who received the severe threat, 77% immediately played with the robot.
The threat only worked when the enforcer was there. But the boys who got the mild instruction, only 33% played with it.
Because they lacked an external justification. To make sense of why they hadn't played with it initially, they had to generate an internal justification.
I didn't play with it because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
They internalized the rule. It's a massive lesson for leadership. Give someone a reason just barely strong enough to produce the behavior so they take inner responsibility.
But what happens when our internal compass is broken? When we enter a situation so ambiguous we don't know what to do?
We stop looking inward and we start looking outward at the crowd. Social proof.
The monkey-see-monkey-do principle. We determine what is correct by finding out what others think is correct.
And the most maddening example is canned laughter on TV sitcoms. We all hate it. We know it's fake. So why do networks use it?
Because human biology ignores our conscious preferences. Injecting canned laughter causes audiences to laugh longer and rate the material as funnier, especially when the jokes are bad.
If my conscious brain knows it's a fake recording, why does my body react?
Social proof operates in the older parts of the brain designed to keep you with the herd. You hear laughter, your brain recognizes social evidence. The group finds this funny. To deviate is biologically dangerous.
The autopilot of the crowd. If everyone runs out of a building, it's good to run too. But this autopilot can be disastrously wrong, especially under two conditions. The first is uncertainty.
When a situation is ambiguous, we look to others. This creates pluralistic ignorance.
The highway patrolman story. A bizarre type of freeway accident during rush hour. Two cars suddenly change lanes simultaneously.
The driver behind them assumes there's an obstacle ahead, so they change lanes too.
The driver behind that car sees three cars shift and violently swerves to follow. Within seconds, a whole line of cars is angling into the next lane for absolutely no objective reason.
They're reacting solely to the social proof of the cars ahead.
And eventually, someone hits the brakes too hard and a massive collision occurs. The crowd is mistaken because they're just reacting to the principle of social proof. It's a feedback loop of ignorance.
The second condition where social proof thrives is similarity. We follow the lead of people who are like us.
Researchers tested this by dropping wallets around Manhattan containing cash, ID, and a letter. In some cases, the letter was in standard American English. In others, broken English, implying a foreigner found it first.
They wanted to see if the second finder would return it based on the actions of the first finder.
The wallets were returned 70% of the time if the first finder seemed culturally similar. But if they seemed dissimilar, the wallets were returned only 33% of the time.
We look to our peers to dictate our moral behavior. It works on children too. Kids with a phobia of dogs watched a video of a little boy playing happily with a dog.
Within 4 days, 67% of the kids were willing to climb into a playpen with a dog. But the crucial variable was the age of the kid in the video.
It was exponentially more effective when the child on screen was the exact same age.
Which transitions us to the next weapon. We follow people like us, but we are absolutely defenseless against people we like. The friendly thief.
The ultimate setting for this is the Tupperware party.
It is a masterclass in psychological warfare. It uses reciprocity with free games, commitment by making guests publicly state why they love Tupperware, social proof because everyone is buying.
But the nuclear weapon is liking.
Because the company rep isn't making the sale. The hostess is. And the hostess is a personal friend of every guest, and she profits from the purchases.
The guests feel unbearable pressure to buy because rejecting the product feels like rejecting their friend.
But they don't always have your best friend in the room. So their strategy is simple. Get you to like them. Enter Joe Girard.
The world's greatest car salesman, according to Guinness, made over $200,000 a year in the 70s selling Chevrolets.
He averaged 5 cars a day. His formula was just a fair price and someone they'd like to buy from. That's it.
If you can get the customer to like you, the battle is won.
So what are the subconscious triggers of liking?
The first is physical attractiveness, the halo effect.
We automatically assign favorable traits like kindness and high intelligence to good-looking people.
Instantly, without being aware of it, attractive people get paid more, receive lighter prison sentences, and are twice as likely to be hired for a job.
The second trigger is similarity. Like we saw with social proof, we like people who are like us.
In the 70s, researchers had people ask college students for a dime. If the requester was dressed in hippie clothes and the student was too, they got the dime over 2/3 of the time.
If they were dressed conservatively, less than half the time. Car salesmen are trained to scan for this. They see camping gear in your trunk. Suddenly they love the outdoors.
They manufacture a bond. The third trigger is familiarity. We like what we know.
The mirrored face study. If you show a friend a true photo of you and a mirrored photo, they pick the true one.
Because that's the face they see.
But if you choose, you invariably pick the mirrored image because that's what you see in the bathroom mirror every morning. Familiarity breeds affection.
The fourth trigger is association. We link people to the news they bring or the things they stand near.
Advertisers put beautiful models next to cars, hoping the desirability rubs off on the sheet metal.
And it works. Men who view a car ad with a model rate the car as faster and better designed, and they vehemently deny the model had any effect.
We do this with sports teams. When our team wins, we say, we won. We associate with victory. But when they lose, we say, they lost. We sever the association.
Even a doctor's wife, furious her husband was left off a best doctors list, sent the magazine a photo of him posing with celebrity Merv Griffin. She relied entirely on association.
So we defer to those we like, but we surrender completely to those in charge. Authority, blind obedience.
From birth, we are taught obedience to authority is right. It prevents total anarchy, but it has a mechanical, mindless component.
The eardrop story. A patient has a severe infection in his right ear. The doctor abbreviates the prescription. Place an R. Ear. R. Space ear.
The nurse reads the chart.
She is a trained professional, but
Sure.
because the doctor is the ultimate authority, she turns off her critical thinking and administers the ear drops into the patient's rear end.
And neither the nurse nor the patient questioned it. Once a legitimate authority gives an order, subordinates stop thinking and start reacting.
But are we bowing to actual authority or just the symbols of it?
Often the symbol is entirely sufficient. Robert Young played Dr. Marcus Welby on TV. Sanka Coffee hired him to do commercials touting their decaffeinated coffee.
And it worked. He had no medical credentials, he's an actor. But the appearance of authority triggered compliance.
Con artists used titles, uniforms, luxury clothes. A researcher had a man jaywalk across a busy street. When he wore a standard work shirt, a few people followed.
But when he wore a sharply tailored business suit, he pulled significantly more pedestrians into illegal traffic.
Or the honking study, a stalled car at a green light. If it was a cheap economy model, almost every driver honked immediately.
Some even rammed the bumper.
But if it was a high-end luxury model, 50% of drivers waited respectfully without honking once until it moved.
And college students predicted they would honk faster at the luxury car to knock the rich guy down a peg. We wildly underestimate the impact of authority symbols.
Which brings us to the final weapon, scarcity.
The shortcut for quality. If something is hard to get, it must be valuable. But the real power is psychological reactance.
As opportunities become less available, we lose freedoms. And we biologically hate losing freedoms.
Whenever free choice is threatened, the need to retain it makes us desire the item significantly more. Real estate agents are masters of this.
The manufactured rival buyer.
You're on the fence about a house, the agent calls and says an out-of-state investor is putting in a cash offer tomorrow.
Suddenly, the house is a scarce resource.
Your freedom to choose is threatened, and your desire skyrockets. Appliance salespeople use the can't come back trick. This is the last TV in stock. If you walk out, it's gone.
They weaponize scarcity to remove your time to think. Evolutionarily, hoarding scarce resources was life or death. Artificial scarcity hacks that ancient survival terror.
Taking a step back, this is a terrifying landscape. We are surrounded by mimics. How do we survive this jungle of influence?
We can't abandon our mental shortcuts. We'd be paralyzed. We must learn to recognize when compliance professionals are using jujitsu on us. Focus on the effects in your body.
The feeling in your gut. If you like a car salesman way more than you logically should after 25 minutes, alarm bells should ring.
Redefine the interaction. Treat tricks as tricks, not as favors. If a fire inspector gives you a free extinguisher and pressures you into a $1,000 alarm system, intellectually reclassify the extinguisher.
It's not a gift. It's a sales tool.
Once you label it correctly, the rule of reciprocity evaporates.
We must be fiercely vigilant against those who counterfeit the social evidence we rely on. They are polluting the very shortcuts we need to survive.
And we are going to need those shortcuts more than ever.
Absolutely. To wrap up our audiobook summary for Read Less, here are the key takeaways. 1. Our brains use automatic shortcuts to survive a complex world, but manipulators can hack these shortcuts. 2. Reciprocity and consistency are incredibly powerful internal drives that can be weaponized against you. And 3. Defend yourself by paying attention to your gut feelings and recognize when a favor is actually a trap.
It's all about awareness.
In a world accelerating faster every single day, our cognitive load is maxed out. Our reliance on these mental heuristics is only going to increase. Are we rushing headlong into a future where our brains are forced to be on automatic pilot permanently? And if so, who is going to be steering the plane? If we aren't careful, we might just find ourselves sitting in the dark, happily hugging a stuffed polecat.
A sobering thought to end on.
Thank you all for joining this deep dive. Keep questioning the things that feel a little too automatic. Keep analyzing your gut reactions, and always keep exploring the why behind your decisions. If you enjoyed this audiobook, make sure to subscribe to Read Less, like this video, and share it with your friends. See you in the next powerful audiobook.